Hey guys, Tomboy601, and we are back with our best and worst series. We skipped it last Friday due to some carry news, but we're back in it today. Today, we're doing best and worst of the Tier 5 cruisers, but before we dive into that, let's go ahead and talk about our comment of the day. And this one goes out to Chompers1218. He says, looking forward to the British heavies going to work on leveling up the Tenant. And that's actually not even in a video. Yeah, he commented on one of our community polls. So, hey, guess what? Comment of the day going to any sort of comment you leave here on this channel, not just specifically the videos. It can also be those community updates and polls and posts and things like that. So, lesson is just go ahead and leave a comment, and hey, also if you like any of this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know what you guys think are the best and worst tier 5 destroyers down below. Now, how the series works, if you haven't joined us before, is we have all of the tier 5 ships in a big ol' spreadsheet. Ships get +2 points if they are the best at the tier for something, +1 point if they are the second best at the tier at some sort of stat, -2 for being the worst, and -1 for being the second worst. For this ranking overall, we are just going to be talking about tech tree ships, though I do want to point something out that's kind of funny. According to the mathematical equation of this grand spreadsheet, the two premiums at the tier, Gallant and Monahan, are actually the worst ships, which I kind of find kind of funny. Now, enough about that. Let's go ahead and talk about the best ship according to the spreadsheet, and that goes out to the French Guepard. We're going with Guepard on this one. French names, notoriously hard to pronounce, so I do apologize if I murder it with my words. So first off, starts off strong, 17,200 HP, highest at the tier, 6 to 16 millimeters of armor, and it has some of the highest number of guns at the tier, five guns, and they are at 139 millimeters, the second best diameter at the tier, giving you a very good penetration. Overall, its range and reload time are middle of the tier, but its HE damage is second best at the tier, along with its chance of fire at 11%. AP damage is 2,600 per shell, giving you a damage per minute of 139,360. Now, of course, this spreadsheet is not taking into account one of the true blessings of that French destroyer, and that is that reload booster, because that thing can make the gun scream and make it compete with any ship when it comes to damage per minute. And that's personally why I really like her, but enough saying, that's not really in the numbers. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the torpedoes. She does just have 2 3-stack launchers that are 550 millimeters. Reload time on those 87 seconds, and she has the highest damaging torps at the tier at 18,400. Detectability range on those is 1.2 kilometers. Additionally, she is the fastest ship, or the second fastest ship base trait at the tier at 37.8, but she can easily be the fastest ship at the tier with her speed boost. She is, though, the second worst maneuverable ship. She has a 680 meter turn radius, which is fairly large for destroyers. The last thing that she isn't very good at is her smoke fire. She has a 2.7 kilometer smoke fire penalty, which, like, you could forgive, because guess what? The one big downside of the French destroyers is they don't have smoke. So the fact that she has a terrible smoke fire range, detectability range, that's forgivable, because she doesn't even carry smoke to fire on to begin with. Anyways, Guepard, I really like her. I really enjoy her, and I'm kind of happy with how the numbers shook out for her. So that is our best destroyer according to the numbers. Now let's go ahead and talk about the worst destroyer according to the numbers, and that's going to be the good old Russian Gnevny. I know, it's very odd that these two ships are very much the same. They're very similar. They're gunboats, essentially, but they fall on very different spectrums of the thing. First off, Gnevny does not have as high of HP, 14,100, which puts her kind of, she's a little bit higher up at the tier, but not fully all the way up there, so she doesn't really earn points for her HP. First thing she does end up earning points for is going to be her firing range. She does have the best firing range at the tier at 11.6 kilometers. She is designed to be a long range shooter, and that's what she excels at. Unfortunately, that means she kind of fails in a lot more of the situations. 180 time on the guns is the longest at the tier at 23.1. Once again, reinforcing that she's supposed to be a long-range destroyer, a harassing destroyer of gunboats. Her overall, the damage on her guns is very average, middle of the tier, 1900 HE, 8% chance of fire, 2500 AP damage, which gives her damage per minute of 120,000 damage per minute. She does end up firing about 48 rounds per minute, which once again, also middle of the road. She's a very middle of the road destroyer beyond just her torpedoes, which we'll get to now. Torpedo range, shortest at the tier at only 4 kilometers. She does make up for it though in the speed of those torpedoes at 77 knots and the reload time of 76 seconds. Quickest at the tier on that reload time and fastest by far in torp speed. She does also have the fastest base speed of any destroyer at 39.1 knots. Now finally, it's her maneuverability and her detectability that let her down again. Rudder shift, 3.9 seconds, second slowest at the tier. And then she has the worst detectability by sea and worst detectability by air, 6.8 kilometers by sea and 3.5 kilometers by air. And the second worst smoke fire penalty of any cruiser at 2.6, meaning she by far and away is the worst ship according to our spreadsheet. And actually, I'm going to say it here, she is also my pick for the worst destroyer at the tier. She's hard to play, and she's not that much fun once you get her upgrade and you understand how to play with her. She's just a difficult ship. The playing at range is fun and all, but you just feel like you don't have the guns to really compete with the cruisers or the battleships or maybe the other, like you are such in the middle of the road on guns when it comes to your kin of other destroyers, and by the time you spot them, you are most likely going to be out of your depth and out of your range and most likely out of your damage per minute, where it's going to be a close call, and then you're not going to be able to outgun everyone else. And even if you do end up keeping them at range, it doesn't always work out. It's just a mess and a very difficult ship to play. And Russian destroyers overall are just incredibly difficult, and it's a grind to get through them, and you really only see people playing them to maybe get to the tier 7 ship, which is the Tashkent. Beyond that, she does have really good armor penetration. That is one of her good things. She can consistently Citadel cruisers when they do get close to her, but even then, it is kind of difficult on her. So yeah, that's overall the Gnevny, both the worst ship according to the formula and the worst ship according to me. So we've talked about the best and worst of the tier according to the formula and the worst according to me. So now let's go and look at the bright side, and that's going to be the best ship at the tier. And this one goes out, according to me, is going to be the Fubuki. Yeah, I recently started playing her. I was a through and through USA Destroyer person, but I think at this tier, the Fubuki provides such a level up on the rest of her competition because of those torps. Fubuki is something that consistently scares captains, or at least, like, when I know there's a Fubuki around, I am constantly dreading it when it's on the other team, because I know it has the speed to stay out of range when it knows how to play, and it has the range on torps to absolutely screw you when you're in a cruiser or a battleship if you even lose focus for too long and keeps sailing in a straight line, because it will come back and it will haunt you and it will sink you. Anyways, Fubuki, hit points 13,420, 6 to 20 millimeters of armor. She does have 3 double cannons that are 127 millimeter. Firing range is 10.3. Reload time, worst at the tier on the guns. She once again is a very heavily torpedo focused ship. 8.3 second reload on those guns, giving her shells per minute of 43 shells per minute. 180 time, surprisingly not that bad at 15.3 seconds. HE damage on them is 1800, giving her the second worst DPM at the tier of 78,000 damage per minute on those HE shells, with a 7% chance of fire. Then she has a 2200 damage on those AP shells, giving her the worst at the tier DPM when it comes to AP of 95,000 damage. Once again, she is the worst at the tier at that. But then we get into where she shines. First off, torpedoes, tied for the best reload at the tier at 76 seconds and a second best damage per torpedo at 16,267. Detectability and torp speed are a little bit worse. 1.5 kilometer detectability with a 59 knot torpedo, tied for slowest at the tier. She does end up making up for it with her best at the tier torp range at a full 10 kilometers, and this is where she excels. Max speed is a downside for her, 35 knots, slowest at the tier. Turning radius is middle of the ground at 640, and then it comes to where she is best at the tier. Best at tier rudder shift speed at 2 seconds. Best detectability by sea, 5.4 kilometers, by air, 3 kilometers, and in smoke, 2.3. She is stealthy, and she is a torpedo boat, and she can fire those torpedoes the quickest of anyone. And when those torpedoes hit, they are one of the most damaging, making her just an absolutely lethal threat to any sort of battleship or any cruiser player that just decides that sailing in a straight line is the best course of action and not running sonar. And the Fubuki, I think she just excels all the time. And like I said, when I play and I see a Fubuki on the enemy team, I know I could be in for a world of hurt if that Fubuki player knows what they're doing. And that's why I think she is the best destroyer at the tier. But you may disagree with me. If you do, let me know down in the comments below, guys. That's been this episode of Best and Worst. Next week we'll be doing cruisers. If you want, do follow me over on Twitch. We are streaming tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Additionally, you can follow me over on Instagram and Twitch as well. Or if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right down below. Guys, my name is TommyBoy601. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.